So now that I have my sheets created, now I want to start laying down my views. Remember, there's a dependency there. So I have to create sheets first before I can identify anything in terms of views. Now, views are a little bit more challenging. However, inside of the Inventor API, they're clearly defined in terms of what the requirements are to place a view. In order to create a base view inside of Inventor, the manual operation of creating a base view, anytime I do that, I have to provide some sort of file reference. Now, by default, any files that I have open, Inventor is going to identify right here. But programmatically, if I want to add views, I have to tell Inventor what that reference is. And that's what's going on right here. So the first thing I'm doing is I'm defining some variables that I'm going to use later on to locate my views, where they're going to be located on the sheet. Now, are they going to be to the left? Are they going to be to the right? Are they going to be on the top? Are they going to be on the bottom? So I'm doing some simple calculations to understand where the center of the sheet is, what's the vertical dimension, what's the horizontal dimension of the sheet. So that way I can do some calculations to identify where my views are going to be at. Thing to note about views is that whenever you want to do something in terms of views and in terms of locating them at, the reference point on a view is in the lower left-hand corner. So the lower left-hand corner of my sheet is essentially 0, 0. And then if I want to go in the X direction or horizontal, then it's going to be 0 is on the left and whatever the sheet size is on the right. Similarly, 0 is on the bottom in the vertical direction and then whatever the sheet size is at the top. So it's very simple to do some sort of calculation based upon this point of origin in the lower left-hand corner of where my views might be relative to that point, okay? So now that I understand some sort of calculation as to where I'm going to place my views, I need to identify my model reference. So I'm just going out and I'm grabbing that file that I just created, that IAM. So I'm using some ambiguous code here in order to determine that. You know, I have a shared variable that I'm populating a value that I'm reusing later on. And then after I create or my reference, what file or document do I want to use as my reference for my views, then I need to start identifying where am I going to place those views. So in order to place a view, you have to use this point 2D. So I have to know where my X and my Y is at in order to create a 2D point of where my first view is going to be at, my second view, my third view, and my fourth view. Once I have that, then I need to do some sort of defining as to the orientation. What is the orientation of my view? Am I looking at a front view, a top view, a left view, a right view? Is it an isometric view? So I need to also understand orientation. Once I have orientation, then I need to understand what view style is it. Is it hidden lines? Is it shaded? And then after I define all those prerequisites or that criteria, then I can go through the process of actually creating the views. So I know that I'm going to have 4 views, so I created a loop to create those 4 views. I know my first view is going to be a base view, so I'm using the add base view method inside of the Inventor API, in which case, for me to add a base view inside of the API or from the API, I need to provide this. I need to provide what model am I going to use as a reference, what position am I going to be placing that view, what's the scale of the view, what's the orientation of the view, and what's the view style. Those are requirements. And then all these other things are just optional. If I want to give it a view name, if I want an arbitrary camera, additional options, so on and so forth. So as long as you're meeting the minimum requirements, you can add this view. So I'm going to add a base view first. Then the second view, I'm going to add a projected view from the base view. Now, because projected views are referencing a previously created view, I don't have to re-provide a model reference. I'm going to use the existing model reference of the view in which I'm projecting from, just like normal Inventor behavior, as if I was doing it manually. To create a detail view, I need to understand what parent view am I going to create a detail view from, where's the position, what's the view style, so on and so forth. And then I can scale, and then I need to scale that view because I want it large enough to express or show the detail necessary. And then lastly, I'm going to add another base view, and this is going to be an isometric view, and it's going to be shaded over here on the right-hand side. So those are my 4 views that I'm creating, and this is the code in order to do that. And then I'm going back and deleting views as a cleanup process, and then I have a function as to doing a calculation of the sheet size in order to understand the view scale. Because as we all know, using Inventor, if I bring this view in as 1-to-1, it's going to overrun my paper. The paper size is always consistent. We need to scale the view so it fits on the paper. So in order for us to do that programmatically, we need to know the extents of the sheet, and then we can do a calculation to scale down the view to make sure that it never overruns the border of the sheet.